Right, greetings everybody, it's Umberrays here today, trying to catch up on just some stuff here in Wotv and SD Gundam, and boy oh boy, I'm behind, but what you gonna do? Sometimes you're just really busy, and then sometimes you also are busy with other things, you just can't get anything done. Anyway, today we're gonna be wrapping up on Elena, at least for now. Now, in the previous video, I did basically a test. I looked a little bit at her skills and everything like that, and I just want to talk about the general reaction I've seen from her, as well as some reviews and some team strategies. So this is a little bit of a team building video, but also a worth the stones video, whether or not it is actually worth it. And so yeah, there's just going to be a bunch of stuff. Let's just get right into it. Starting off with, of course, her actual position right now on JP. So on JP, if we're looking at her, she doesn't seem to have made as big splash as Zack did. Zack came out and was just straight, very, 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 very powerful. And Elena doesn't seem to be that good. It's interesting because she is a dark shooter who also has strike abilities, which means that she is actually a pretty solid DPSer, not like exceedingly high amounts or enough to really shape the meta, but strong and reliable enough that she is a threat. Elena is definitely a threat out there. But the also interesting thing that came about all of this is the granting of follow-up attacks, like Yuna, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later, but that is really important. Also, triple attacks for a combo of shooting and striking is hard for opponents to deal with, and can dispel and remove guts from a mid-decent range, which is all nice. Also, the commander ability is pretty special for Elena, of having like a debuff and negative effect to your opponents, as opposed to a offensive effect that we have seen with many, many other characters. So yes, Elena, for all intents and purposes, is a pretty interesting character. Now, I had to full pity Zack, so I am absolutely not trying for this character. And yeah, to be fair, I'm not as negative on Elena as I am on Zack right now, because of course I am. That's what happens when you have to full pity a character. But yeah, Elena has a definitely decent and solid kit, better than I thought she would do. So now let's get in and not waste any time and talk about teams. And I'm specifically stealing this picture from Peachin's video, and not his actual video, because you can go watch that if you want. Everybody should have Peachin's YouTube channel by now. I'm surprised it's not affiliated with us. But anyway, here you can see the way that he's built, with access to bells, the white hat for extra accuracy, and just some vision cards for offensive. And three major teams were present here. Now here are basically what I think. The bottom one of Zack, Cloud, and Elena is competent, but kind of uninteresting. It doesn't really do anything that super amazing, and it was probably the least successful of the three teams you see here. The arguably best team is the Zack, Harsha, and Elena team that you see at the top there. That team does seem to be the general best of the best right now, where it's just nasty to go up against this because a lot of self-sustain, a lot of interesting combinations, and it just seems to be really good. Also, I wouldn't say that it is the highest or the most unreasonable in terms of limited vision cards compared to some of the other stuff that's out there. Here's the thing though. Recently we also looked at another video where it was Harsha, Cloud, and Zack. And the interesting thing is that it is a complete stalemate between the top team here of Zack, Harsha, Elena versus Zack, AC Cloud, and Harsha. So it literally comes down to a slap fest where the two Zacks can't kill each other because both Harshas have enough heal and sustain in them to keep the fight going pretty much till the end of the 50 turn timer. So here's the thing. If you want to know what I think is the overall best team right now, it's that top right one. However, it's not the most interesting team that we're going to be talking about. That is actually going to the middle team of Yuna, Elena, and Maeve. And the big reason that I am bringing this up is because it was the most impressive and actually dealt with successfully, mind you, Zac, AC Cloud, and Karşa. And that is pretty astounding for right now. The other thing was that the shooting team here that you also see did struggle against the Gilgamesh and AC Moore and Karşa. So what we can take away from this is that shooting is actually really interesting right now with a combination of Yuna and Elena. And with Rufus coming out next week, the big takeaway from all of this for me is that I actually think that Yuna, Elena, and Rufus is going to be the one to watch, and quite possibly the strongest team in the game. Because Maeve was actually pretty good in the matchup. She was doing a fair amount of share of the work, but I think that Rufus might be that point where shooting goes a little bit over the top. But the thing that I'm also super positive on is that the Yuna Elena team, whatever it ends up looking like, just the sheer number of follow-up attacks is really powerful. It isn't oppressive. It's actually a really good balance to other teams that exist out there right now. Like, honestly, it's nice to see that it wins against some things but loses against other things, and has some really interesting matchups all across the board where it just does well against certain teams that are already consistently quite strong, but then fails against a few others. And that makes it really good for the meta. The shooting team here that can effectively deal with the strongest Zac teams, but not with the Pierce teams, and the Pierce teams cannot deal with the Zac teams so well. We are actually getting into a little bit of messiness where there's a little bit of room to breathe between multiple teams, and some teams just do better against other teams than other things. So I'm quite happy to be reporting this, that I think that we have a situation where we're getting a little bit of balance between teams. Of course, well, Rufus could come along next week and just ruin that whole thing and make it very lopsided to where shooting actually goes over the top. But since Pierce went that direction recently, but has kind of since been scaled back and humbled by some of the new teams, it feels nice to say that we are looking like the meta will be a very nice mix of slash, healing, magic, piercing, and shooting, all fairly well represented with just a splash of strike damage in there, not unbalance things. Now, how long that will last, I don't know, because also we have a May 1st comic character coming out, probably alongside Rufus, who's another story character, and probably one that will be pretty damn strong. If you remember, about a year ago, we saw Shrekken come out, and Shrekken was damn near oppressive for a very long time. So it feels like we're getting closer to another type of those characters. But, dear viewer, if there is one thing you are going to take away from this entire video, if there's one determining unit or one unit out there that shines well and above truly every other unit, it's Karşa. So on, like, just in case people don't know who I'm talking about, didn't come out on Global, this young lady right here, she is like a bad penny. She's turning up everywhere, and yeah, she is the linchpin of a lot of very, very strong teams. So she is the one that I would have to say is the most valuable unit to have come out this year. And I think that she will, last quite well. We'll see if a summer unit, just like the previous year, puts a little bit of pressure on her. But she has such good skill. She's very well liked by the community, and I think she's in a decent spot. But yeah, if you were to reroll, yeah, Zac would be really cool. If you could get Zac, AC Cloud, and Kartia, that's a strong team. You could also just get Elena instead, and that's also a really strong team, instead of going for AC Cloud, and also newer, so probably last longer. But yeah, Kartia is probably the most important character to reroll for at this point in time on the JP side, and I don't think that's going to change. But we'll see. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and later.